Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Independence City Council for Monday, August 16th, 2021. Our invocation this evening will be offered by Ken Trox, elder of the East Independence Church of Christ. If you would please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you all please pray with me? Our Father, I thank you for who you are and how you've blessed us. I thank you for the country we live in and the city that we live in. And even though these are very challenging times, I thank you for the benefits of the times in which we live. Father, I'd like to pray for the council tonight, for their deliberations, their decisions that they will make. I pray for the city's senior staff, for all the employees and volunteers of the city as they go about their responsibilities and as they serve all of us. Finally, Father, I want to pray your special blessings on the sick of our community, especially those that are struggling with COVID. And I want to pray for our children and the teachers in our area as they all head back to school. And so I ask all these blessings and ask and I pray in your name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmembers Huff.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
DeLucy. Steinmeier.
Here.
Hobart.
Here.
Mayor Ware.
Here. Before we proceed with our agenda this evening, I did want to take a moment to recognize a member of our Independence family who passed away earlier this week on August 11th. Sergeant John Bullard, a 46 veteran of the City of Independence and dispatch and the Independence Police Department. Sergeant Bullard was retired from the Independence Police Department but maintained his post hours and served our community as a reserve officer until the time of his illness and death this past week. He was a very valued member of our community in many, many aspects. So I would ask you to please join in a moment of silence in honor of Sergeant John Bullard. Thank you. We do have several speakers tonight who are non-residents who have requested to address the council. So I would entertain a motion to suspend our rules of procedure to allow for non-residents to address the council this evening.
So moved. Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. I would like to make a second motion to read our non-ordinance action items out of order and to address the non-ordinance action items following the consent agenda, and then we would follow those with the public hearings. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. We have a number of people who have come to speak to the council this evening, so I just wanted to briefly review the rules when addressing the council. You will have individuals will have a time limit of 5 minutes, which is the same amount of time to be given to any other speaker. A limit of 3 minutes if the issue has been presented to the council once, a limit of 2 minutes if the issue has already been presented to the council twice, and you will be notified when 1 minute remains at the conclusion of the allotted time. That will be indicated by the city clerk. By any rulings of the mayor as to the time and propriety of remarks, understanding that one topic plan to address is the matter concerning the city's business or the matter over which the council has control. You shall not deviate from the above stated topic. Third, that your statement will not make any personal attacks upon either the public official or any other person. All remarks will be directed to the mayor or the council as a body, and the council is under no obligation to answer direct questions or to debate with the speaker. So I want to make sure everybody who's signed up to speak understands those rules. It is my duty as the presiding officer of this council to maintain order. We have a very large crowd this evening. I know everybody wants their opportunity to be heard, so please be respectful and remain quiet when the speakers are here at the podium. When your name is called, please come up to the microphone, state your name for the record. Please don't line up, as when you're done, return to your seat and I will call the next speaker. We do have one speaker who is here on behalf of a group, and he will receive 10 minutes to speak. So, yes. Our first speaker this evening is Sharon Royer, who requests to speak to the council regarding support for the mask mandate in Independence. Ms. Royer. No, hang on, we can't. Let's make sure we have our microphone working. There we go.
Green.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Again, Sharon Royer. Let's start the timing now, please. Mayor Ware, city council members, and city staff, my subject is the mask mandate for Independence, and I want you to know that I am definitely a supporter. Some have offered to provide me with statistics, maps, charts, and other visual aids to help persuade you. However, I am sure that you have seen many of these. I encourage you to watch the Kansas City Chamber Zoom meeting held August 6th, where hospital administrators and medical staff review the statistics for this area. Any tool that we can use to minimize the spread of COVID and its variants is only using good common sense, and it puzzles me why we resist. But let's go a step further. What is the root cause for the virus developing variants, and how can this be prevented? Presently, our most effective weapons are the vaccine and mask. Our not attaining herd immunity is hesitancy among the community members. 50 years ago, I was fortunate to have a fully paid grant to do scientific research on any topic I chose. My paper was on cellular tissue culture. We were learning about the inner workings of the cell and trying to figure out the purpose and mechanics for all these subcellular particles. Today, tissue culturing has been refined, regenerating nerve tissues for those with brain and spinal injuries. We applaud these discoveries. We do not question them or express fear because we don't understand the mechanics. So why is there so much resistance? The messenger RNA, something that has been studied well over 50 years, proves to be the mechanism helping our cells reject the COVID virus. Is messenger RNA the final answer? No. Other forms of developing immunity are being refined, just as the Sabin's polio vaccine replaced the Salk vaccine. But we took the Salk vaccine because it protected us. Some years ago at General Motors, they decided to retool the entire plant without a plant shutdown. They sent a team of their best engineers and designers to implement this change, but the project was constantly being sabotaged. What it took was a grassroots approach. We went to each person on the line that was impacted, explaining the purpose for the change. What resulted was once the union members understood how this tool was going to improve their work, the program was a success and was a model used for other plants. So why am I telling you this story? Because I believe we have let Independence be sabotaged. We do not have herd immunity, and our citizens are suffering needlessly. The city council is elected, and people have promoted you during campaigns because they believe that you have wisdom and good judgment. Through the Independence Health Department and the Mid-America Regional Council, You have access to valid information and experts that the citizens do not have. We want you to protect us from harm. We want you to provide us a future of hope. And we have put our trust in you. We want you to make the right decision, not the easy decision. So what is the solution of COVID taking over our lifestyle? We need everyone, and elected officials included, to go to the grassroots, speaking with authority and promoting vaccinations and masks. Encourage as if lives depended on it. Require mask. So that's my argument for masking using logic and reasoning. But I have another argument too. Last month, my aunt died, and I traveled to the Chicago area where the vaccination rate is higher than in Independence. I was able to go into the hospital, and after a temperature check and a mask, I was able to be at her bedside. I could visit, feed her ice chips, and apply lotion to her arms.
You have 1 minute.
A week later, the next week, after arriving home, I received a call from my son. His mother-in-law had a heart attack and was in Centerpoint ICU. Only 2 visitors were permitted, and only for a limited time. They were not allowed to wait in the hallway. They were not allowed to wait in the lobby. Waiting outside the hospital was their only option. With temperatures reaching 95 degrees and a heat index of 103, the car air conditioner could just not keep up, parked on a treeless asphalt parking lot. So they waited for 5.5 hours by the hospital doors, waiting for the mother to die. The contrast between how we were able to say goodbye to our loved ones is infuriating, and I feel the effects of sabotage. I urge you, please make the right choice, not the popular choice, but one of integrity. Require mask. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Colleen Huff, who requests to speak to the council regarding mask mandates. Ms. Huff.
My name's Colleen Huff, and thank you so much for allowing me to speak. And I'd like to say first off that I'm no relation to Mike Huff, although we share the same last name and it's spelled the same way. And anyway, her story that she just told was really moving, but my story is a little more positive, and I just want to say that I've been living in Independence for 14 years. I'm a small business owner, and so is my husband. My youngest son is a senior at William Chrisman, and he started out as a 3-year-old in the trailer at Santa Fe Trail Elementary. I've gathered so much information, and I've done so much research regarding mask mandates and the pandemic, and when preparing to speak today, I was just kind of all over the map, but what it really boils down to is a matter of freedom versus government control. And in a democracy, people control their own decisions. And I represent the people in Independence who do not want the government enforcing mandates on their businesses or their families. And so in the hierarchy of a democracy, it is the people, its parents, its business owners, and the government is somewhere down here. And the government works for the people and not vice versa. So basically, anytime you usurp authority over business owners, you are imposing your mandates on their business that they created. This is my operations manual for my business that I've been doing for 10 years to help at-risk families reunify with their children. This is my nonprofit that I dreamt about for 4 years that has finally come to fruition. And the last thing I need is the government stepping in to try to tell me what to do with my business and my nonprofit. And furthermore, I shopped. I went up to Independence Square today looking for a great t-shirt to wear tonight, and I couldn't find one. But what I did observe is some stores requiring a mask mandate, and that was fine. I didn't have a problem with that. But other stores that didn't. The ones that did have a mask mandate, when I walked in, they weren't wearing one, but they put one on when I entered their establishment. But basically what it all boils down to is, yeah, we are in unprecedented times, that's for sure. But there are a lot of new, early antibodies and different, just different things coming out to help reduce the time of the infection. So basically, my husband and I, like I said, we're both small business owners, and we feel that we should be the ones making the decisions for our businesses, just like every other business owner.
You have 1 minute.
I guess in closing, I would just like to talk about just the detrimental effects of wearing masks and what our students, the kids, especially the small, the young ones, what they're facing. They're facing fear. They're not learning to talk properly because they can't see their teachers and the consonants and the sounds that they make without the masks. There's anxiety, especially for the children with learning disabilities that need to see the social cues of their teachers. There's isolation, and worst of all, there's suicide. So basically, the bottom line is, I created my business, and the government should not be allowed to tell me what I can and cannot do with my business. And it's really a shame that we're in a place in our country and in our city where we find ourselves in this position. And there's just much better ways to combat the virus than masking people. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Christine Nichols, who requests to speak to the council regarding mask mandates. Ms. Nichols.
I have handouts for the mayor and the city council. Can I put them?
Just leave them there, please. Thank you.
I apologize. I have so much. This was a last minute, but freedom is important and facts are important, so. Okay. We've covered a lot of things that I have in my notes. Thank you, first of all, for having us here, and it is our right as the people, we the people, to speak and to make sure that our government elected officials know where we're coming from and that we are standing for our freedoms. So my presentation is twofold. First of all, it's already been addressed about government's order. All of you that are elected to protect our life, liberty, and our pursuit of happiness, where we can make an income and we can obtain property. That's your role, and we elect you to represent us in that manner. And when you don't represent us in that manner, you're not only violating the Missouri Constitution, but you're also violating our federal Constitution. So that is correct. So I wanted to address that too. This is not just about masks. This is about our personal freedom. This is about our liberty. And in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, if you mask mandate and require a mask mandate, you're violating my liberty to choose and to make my own decision. If someone wants to wear 20 masks and they feel like that's protecting them, if a parent wants to tell their child to wear a football helmet so they won't get a rock dropped on their head. Most people would consider wearing a football helmet, not getting a rock dropped on your head for 8 hours. We would say that that's abuse. These masks have no proven science that they actually help. And in my in my handout that I've got for you all.
I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't hear you.
Okay, yes, I ask that people be quiet so that we can hear. The mask on their own box says, this is not a respirator. The mask does not eliminate the risk of contracting any disease or infection. What it does do, though, because God created our bodies to inhale oxygen and exhale CO2, it puts you with a muzzle around your mouth, breathing your own carbon dioxide that our body was not created to do for 8 hours. And also, you're contaminating yourself with that bacteria because you're not breathing normally. That's not the way our bodies were made to breathe. And putting on a mask does not counteract, by the people's own design, any infection. So it's not preventing anything. A week and a half ago, the CDC said on its own website that the current PCR testing would be discontinued by December 31st. It was found that the current testing could not distinguish between SARS-CoV and the influenza virus. Okay? What if these people had the flu?
Excuse me.
What if
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Y'all, I know that you want to support the people who are up here speaking, but you have to be quiet. She only has 5 minutes. We cannot hear the speaker. Please refrain from clapping, shouting out, cheering while the speaker is at the podium. We will put another 45 seconds back on the timer.
Thank you. So the CDC said by its own website that the PCR test could not distinguish between the SARS-CoV virus and the influenza. They're going to discontinue it on December 31st. Wouldn't it be interesting that if we had a lot of people that didn't actually have SARS-CoV, they actually had the flu? We've never been required to wear masks for the flu. We've never been required to have school closing, business closings for the flu. This is a virus. It's up to the individual person. And if you have the flu, you stay home. You get the vaccination. You take therapeutics. There's no reason to be masking and mandating masks and taking away our freedoms. And especially with this recent information that's come out from the CDC, they're going to have to discontinue the tests. How many of those tests were actually the flu and not SARS-CoV? In a mask mandate, you force businesses and entities to be health officials, enforcing mandates that they have no license to do so. You make them the sheriffs of their own. You make them the bad people. They have no license. They have no medical license to be able to tell whether people are healthy or not. It used to be common sense. If you're sick, you stay home. If you need help, you go to the hospital. If you have a mask and you're breathing in your own carbon dioxide for 8 hours, there are studies that are on the back of this that show it's causing gum disease, infection, breathing disorders, cardiac arrest, and even death. So, also when science and peer-reviewed studies show that they do not work against these viruses, there is no reason for mask mandates, and you as the council and the mayor need to uphold the Missouri Constitution and the federal Constitution that you're going to protect our right, our choice for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that does not include mask mandates. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kevin Baird, who requests to speak to the council regarding Bill number 21793. Mr. Baird.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Can you hear me
Okay.
okay?
Not really. Can you get a little closer to your microphone?
I don't think I can get much more.
Oh, that's
closer
better.
without freaking you out there. Is that better?
Yes.
Oh, very good. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Kevin Baird, a resident of the 3rd District. My comments, thoughts, and opinions shared with you tonight are my own and do not reflect those of my employer, family, or friends. I'd much rather be speaking about the police and fire sales tax items tonight, or the change to the procedures for appointing members to things like the PUAB that are on the agenda. I hope this council will agree more discussion is needed on these items to ensure the public understands and can then support what is needed to better meet our city's public safety needs. However, I'm only allowed one topic item, so I'm here virtually tonight to speak in favor of the city's proposed health order to require masks. I'd much prefer to be speaking with you in person, but considering this council rescinded that bare minimum health order of July 28th after the last council meeting, well, virtual it is. The medical community is pleading for assistance to help mitigate the spread of this highly contagious variant, and we know that masks are a key item in the toolbox to help fight the spread. Those opposed to this should understand that the rates of illness, mostly affecting the unvaccinated, are causing cases involving heart attack and stroke patients to be turned away here in our city because of capacity constraints. When you stop to really think about that and hear the words of medical professionals with decades of experience saying they never encountered a situation like this before, you'll hopefully proceed much more differently in your day-to-day lives. Those extra minutes it might take to get you to a facility with a bed may be the deciding factor in the outcome. But much of our city is not heeding the public health advisory, which is why we need a mandate. The fact that we are now into year 2 of this pandemic should have no bearing on this decision. An acceptance of reality and listening to the experts should be all that is needed. This virus does not care if you're tired and want the state of emergency to end. The city charter is clear. The council's primary concern is to serve the public interest, putting personal considerations aside to do so. A wise leader knows that when you find yourself in a hole, the first thing you must do is stop digging. Personal vendettas and grievances amongst members of this council must be set aside to do the right thing. Turning our backs on the medical community's pleas for help is not in the public interest. It's time to join the rest of the county in requiring our residents and visitors to mask up.
Thank you, Mr. Baird. Our next speaker is Matthew Brown, who requests to speak to the council regarding masks and future vaccine card mandates. Mr. Brown.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and also fellow residents. I was born and raised here in Independence. I've lived here my whole life. I definitely call this home. The only time I haven't been here is when I've been overseas for military service. I've been very active in the community and church here. And I do definitely want to thank you for your time and ability to speak up. Our freedoms have constantly been eroded in our nation and our communities over the past year and a half. We originally started with 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and we have given up more and more freedoms in the name of safety. We've been ordered to stay in our homes, mandated to wear masks in public or at work. Our businesses have been forced to close down and lay off employees if we don't comply. We have seen a huge economic impact from the government forcing mandates on citizens, mandates that stifle economic and personal freedoms, as we heard from a couple business owners. We have seen childhood development and growth be stunted in our children as masks in schools continue to be mandated. Several professors and doctors have stated that continuous mask mandates in our youth will have severe learning and development growth in these important, very important years where they are learning and growing. According to Dr. Joseph Mercola, I believe the real threat right now is what we're doing to sabotage the mental, emotional, and physical health of our children, whose development is dependent on social interactions, physical contact, and facial expressions. According to another doctor, Lee Merritt, recently urged Omaha City Council not to extend the mask ordinance. Current lockdown policies are creating long-term effects on our society. The masks may not look like they are not much. What's the big deal? The big deal is they may be soft and they may look okay, but this is George Orwell's boot on a human face forever if we don't get this off. If you would have told any person here a year and a half ago, here in America, that they would have given up all of these freedoms, hardly anyone would believe you. Yet here we are. Where do we draw the line with the government mandating our infringements on our freedoms? Do we stop with masks or go on to require vaccine passports to move freely about the country? This sounds eerily like countries or situations where none who have studied history would like to go. Where do we draw the line in the sand? We have seen from the CDC and other health professionals where masks do not stop this virus, and as it is below the micron level. Yet where has the flu gone? Is the flu just disappeared? Now everything is COVID, and I'm not trying to make light of this virus. It is a very real virus. I've had family members who've had it. I have a family member fighting it now. But it is being unnecessarily and greatly exaggerated to make us fear it, especially during the first few months of this pandemic, which would never have been labeled a pandemic until the WHO unilaterally changed the pandemic definition to include much less dangerous pathogens. And we've seen this continuous manipulation throughout this past year and a half, unlike past experiences with similar virus outbreaks. There have been numerous lies fed to the public by the WHO, national and regional government leaders, health bureaucrats, and the media, and many other institutions, all certainly for the purpose of maintaining fear. Let me say that word again, fear. Until the large majority of the public has been injected with the poorly tested, unnecessary, and dangerous COVID vaccines for which we have no evidence of their long-term safety. Let people and businesses choose their own decisions of how they want to live their lives. We still do not have a full understanding of the long-term effects on this vaccine or continued mask mandates. I am seriously concerned with how this fear-mongering agenda by the media has been constantly pushed upon us for requiring vaccines and mask mandates amongst its citizens.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you. When we constantly trade freedom for security, we then lose our freedom, that we have fought so hard for. And that's something that's very important to me. I encourage each of you to vote no on this mandate and any future mandates like this. Please let us draw a line in the sand. Let citizens and businesses choose based on their own beliefs. And when you look at the two sides, I mean, I always carry a mask. I'll carry a mask in my pocket, and I will be courteous. But let people choose. That is the beauty of our country and what has made this a great nation. We have been given the freedom to make our own decisions regarding our health, how we live, and what we believe. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Catherine Sperry, who requests to speak to the council regarding masks.
Good evening, Mayor Weir, council members, and fellow residents of Independence. I am grateful for the opportunity to speak and share my concerns with you all. I'm a proud resident of Independence, and I believe it is my duty to serve and support the people who live here. And I have been able to work within the community for the last 5 years as a teacher. And so I've seen firsthand how the mask mandates have impacted not just obviously myself and my coworkers, but specifically my students who are special needs students. The City of Independence is being faced with an opportunity to make a decision that will affect all of its residents. There are lots of different opinions about the masks and whether or not they should be mandated. We've heard a lot of those opinions tonight. However, we need to look at the facts. The fact is that wearing masks affects children's ability to develop communication skills and language skills. The question isn't, can a child breathe through a mask? It is, are we truly taking into consideration how it affects their sociological and psychological well-being? We have let media impact our decisions instead of objective science. We've let fear affect our decisions for far too long. We can talk numbers and statistics and data all night long, but it really comes down to just one thing. Where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the line? The decision should be left to individuals and private businesses. The people of Independence are tired. Yes, we're tired of the pandemic. Yes, we're tired of hearing that yet again a loved one or someone else has come down with COVID. But when it comes down to it, where are we going to draw the line? We have fought for our right to be a free people. Let us be free to choose.
Our next speaker is Marcy Gregg, who requests to speak to the council regarding mask mandates. I believe Ms. Gregg is joining us virtually.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Weir and members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening virtually for the safety of my family, and especially my disabled son, Joshua. I'm speaking to you in favor of the resolution requiring masks indoors and outdoors in large gatherings. It was my intention to address you this evening in person. However, a dear friend reminded me that the council chamber would likely be packed this evening with so many items of interest on the agenda. So I appreciate the opportunity to be virtual. Some of you know my son Joshua. He's 23 years old and developmentally disabled. He also has a diagnosis of common variable immunodeficiency, or CVID. A number of years ago, when he was diagnosed with this, he had approximately 25% or even less of a normally functioning immune system. In his first 13 years of life, he was admitted to the hospital 14 times for a total of 114 days, mostly to deal with infections you and I would consider as common as a cold. He had pneumonia 7 times before he was the age of 13 and was admitted to Children's Mercy Hospital for 5 of those. He suffered damage to his lungs that make him extremely vulnerable to diseases like COVID-19. I'm speaking to you this evening for him because he can't speak for himself. There are many, many Joshuas in our community. To protect him during this pandemic, we've been extremely careful to wear masks in all public places, indoors, before we were fully vaccinated, and to take any other precautions necessary to minimize our exposure to COVID-19. In early July, we were breathing a sigh of relief as the COVID numbers came down slightly and then significantly. But then Delta showed up, and now we're back to doing everything we can. Those like him, and really all of those members of our community. Because Delta has proven to be so much more dangerous than all of the other versions of this disease. Some would argue that government entities can't issue mask mandates, that only private businesses should be able to do that, and that our citizens should be able to choose whether or not they want to wear one. I don't understand the logic in that. Government exists to ensure the public health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. We have multitudes of laws on the books for that very reason. We have a code enforcement department that says you can't let weeds and trash collect in your yard because it attracts rodents that spread diseases. We require restaurant workers to follow hygiene procedures to minimize the spread of foodborne illnesses. We require wearing seatbelts, and more importantly, we require wearing seatbelts on our children and having them in car seats to protect them from harm. Of course, government has the ability to require safety measures to protect the public health. And of course, it is clear that wearing masks helps to do that. You've been presented with information, data, and a recommendation by the city's own Advisory Board of Health that clearly articulates that masks work. I'm not going to repeat that data or recommendation. I simply ask that you regard its integrity and take action tonight by passing this resolution. With the question of whether or not a city can impose a mandate out of the way, I ask you to consider the economic impact of choosing not to impose one. Currently, my family chooses very carefully where we will shop. We order online, we choose brick and mortar businesses that protect our health, and that means that sometimes we have to shop outside of the city limits of Independence because there's no mask mandate. If I can't find safe shopping options inside Independence, then my sales tax dollars end up going to other jurisdictions. And in the long run, folks, that's not smart economics for our city. And as this Delta variant outbreak grows and workers get sick, the impact to our businesses and especially our hospitals is staggering.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you. And in closing, I want to ask this one question of those of you who plan to vote against requiring...
Excuse me, Ms. Gray, just a moment. Councilman Hobart asked me to just pause the meeting for a moment. He's having a hard time speaking. If everybody could just please, especially when we have our speakers joining us online, we really need you to be quiet. Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Gray, you can continue.
Thank you, Mayor. In closing, I just want to ask this question of those of you on the council who intend to vote against requiring masks. If you can't support this simple, most basic public health measure to protect our community, what's your plan? What's your plan? How are you going to protect our health? How are you going to help us end this pandemic? Because it's not acceptable to let it carry on month after month, year after year, unchecked. We're 18 months into this, and I don't see an end in sight. What are you going to do when this variant doesn't subside naturally, or when the next variant perhaps even more dangerous than this one, takes hold. If you're saying no to the simple act of requiring masks to deter the spread of this disease, then what's your plan to protect my son and the rest of this community? Thank you for your time, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we have a lot of more speakers to get to, so we'd like to try to move as quickly as possible and give everybody our full attention. Our next speaker is Laura Dominic, who requests to speak to the council regarding public health. Ms. Dominic.
Laura Dominic, 3525 Blue Ridge Boulevard in Independence. Mayor and council members, I'm here to address public health tonight, but I want to address a couple of things in reference to what things I've heard. First of all, as Mr. Baird said earlier, I would much rather be talking about the fire department, the police department issues that are on the agenda tonight, but instead, I'm here to talk about public health. I'm also a small business owner, and I would appreciate if you would maintain the ordinances that require people to wear shoes in my business. Thank you also for I won't say that. Thank you to the doctors who wear masks every day when I go in to be seen and in surgery. I know there are surgeries that last way longer than 8 hours, and they wear their masks the entire time. Last time I checked with the people at Centerpoint, doctors aren't passing out and dying from wearing masks. So, to my speech. You approved a budget just weeks ago to reestablish the health department. The part of the budget that is only for health services, is $746,000 for the compensation and benefits of 8.5 FTEs. The health department's stated mission is to protect and promote health and safety and prevent disease and injury for the residents and visitors in our community through a variety of programs and services. Here are a few situations, some of which are not funded by the health department, but are all part of the public health and safety systems that protect the citizens of Independence. First situation. A dog that has just been hit by a car on Nolan Road with an obvious leg fracture is brought to the shelter. Should surgery be performed to amputate the mangled leg, or should the dog be euthanized? Who should make that decision? The veterinarian, not the city council. Situation. A 67-year-old male goes into cardiac arrest right here. Decision. Is the rhythm on the monitor asystole, in which case it's not called for to be shocked? Or is the patient in fine V-fib and the patient should be shocked? Who should make that decision? Paramedics, not the city council. Next situation, fire rolls up on a structure fire with smoke and fire showing. Decision, is it safe to make entry to fight the fire, or should they hit it hard from the yard? Who should make that decision? A firefighter, not the city council. Situation, 911 dispatcher receives a call for a car wreck with moderate damage at Highway 40 and Little Blue Parkway. Decision, should a rescue be dispatched along with the pumper because extrication might be needed? Who should make that decision? A dispatcher certified in computer-aided dispatch for EMS, not the city council. Situation, a customer complains to the health department that the chicken they ordered at a local restaurant was not completely cooked. Decision, should the restaurant be charged with just a violation, or should it be shut down immediately? Who should make that decision? A qualified food safety inspector, not the city council. Two things. First, if you are not voting tonight to follow the guidance and recommendations of the CDC and the newly established health department, you are voting based on politics, because to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, none of you are qualified to make public health decisions based on your education and experience. Second, if you vote against a mask mandate tonight,
Please be quiet. Mr. City Manager, if I have to gavel this council chambers again, I'm going to ask everybody but the speakers to be removed. Ms. Dominic, please continue.
thank you. Second, if you vote against a mask mandate tonight, you are voting against the mission of your city's health department and are therefore not protecting the health and welfare of the citizens you serve. The question I'm left asking is, why are we spending nearly $750,000 to staff a health department if you're not going to listen to their expert opinions? Thank you.
Thank you. You can clap between speakers, just not during speakers. Thank you. Our next speaker is Matthew Shurka, who requests to speak to the council regarding bill number 21056. I believe that Mr. Shurka is also joining us virtually. Mr. Shurka, are you with us? Okay, I don't see him. There you are. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to voice specifically to this bill that it be brought back to the Human Relations Committee in order to review the bill and some of the language so that it is reviewed properly. Since it was a bill very similar about a month ago that did not pass, and this language has some differences. This is on behalf of the National Center for Lesbian Rights and Born Perfect, an organization representing survivors across the country. We want to make sure that this bill is protecting LGBTQ youth and that the Human Relations Committee has the opportunity to review the bill before voted upon the council. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shurka. Our next speaker is Justin English, who wishes to speak to the council on behalf of the FOP Lodge support for Proposition P language change. Mr. English. Since Mr. English is, I'm sorry, I don't know your rank, sir.
Sergeant.
Sergeant English is addressing the council on behalf of the FOP. He will have 10 minutes. Madam City Clerk, will you keep the time?
Good evening to the council. Thank you for this opportunity tonight to speak to you regarding the proposed amendment to Proposition P, which has a huge impact on the police department's manpower and staffing, and in turn the service to the citizens of the City of Independence. I have a lot of facts to throw at you tonight. I come with you really with two purposes. One is to thank you for your support last week in the meeting regarding the unanimous decision to put Proposition P back, the amendment back on the ballot in November. The other thing is to address some issues that came up about staffing that we have. There were some questions that came up in that meeting, and I would like to address those staffing level questions, as it does significantly impact how you decide to endorse the amendment to Proposition P. The strategic plan for Independence City puts public safety at the forefront. There are 4 key areas where the police department really fits into that strategic plan that was put out by city leadership. Improve customer service, reduce crime and disorder, increase perception of safety, and stabilize and revitalize neighborhoods. That was your promise and plan to the city to move forward, how we can move the city in a better direction. There was a budget summary survey that was sent out by the mayor or the city to the residents, and in that, the overwhelming response from the citizens as their number one priority for the city moving forward is to reduce crime and disorder. And in the open-ended remarks, more police officers and more presence was part of the remarks that was given by the city. So we move forward to 2019 when Proposition P is put on the ballot and it is passed by the citizens of the city. And that was to generally add up to 30 expansion positions to the police department in the form of sworn officers. So effectively, what these citizens and what the city have said is a priority was actually put into effect with the vote and passed both by you all and by the city residents. So we move forward to the questions of staffing levels, which became an issue last week that we needed to clarify. IPD is authorized 230 sworn officers currently. That includes the 30 expansion positions that are offered by Proposition P. We need to look at 2 numbers when we're going through these statistics. That is the number of 200, which is the number authorized sworn prior to Proposition P, and the number of 230, which is post the authorization of the expanding positions. Currently, if you look at our staffing levels, we have 195 sworn officers. So at a quick glimpse, one would think that we are really only 5 positions down from our original staffing levels, and we need to begin to chip away at the proposition expansion. That 195 does not really tell the story of where we're at the police department. 17 officers currently are in training. That means they do not count for full allocation of providing police resources. They may or may not make it through the training program. Right now they are paired with someone else, so they really count as one officer. So we have 178 currently fully qualified to provide police service. Now, when we look at hiring personnel, we look at two things. Do we hire people that are certified and have experience, or do we hire people that are brand new we need to send to the academy and train them, which is approximately a 9-month to year-long program? 63.2% of the people that we send to the academy complete the academy. So 6 out of every 10 that we hire and send make it through. As opposed to pre-certified, pass at the rate of 79.5%. That is, if we hire someone that already has some experience, we put them straight in the field training program and they pass. So we're passing those at 8 out of 10. Now you look at academy recruits, that's 63.2%, and you move them to the FTO program. Once they're in the FTO program, they pass at 36% rate. So roughly between 3 and 4 out of every 10 that we hire and send from day one of the academy and graduating the FTO program is 36%. So let's look back at that 17 officers that we currently have in training. One was certified with experience. So that one person has an 80% chance of making it through the FTO program. So we can add them to the TO. The remaining 16 bear a 36% chance of success. So if you look at the numbers, that is 5.76 recruits are expected to graduate. Add that to the 1 that has experience, and that is 7. So 7 out of 17 that are currently in training, based on statistics, will pass and become full-fledged police officers. That still doesn't tell the full story of really where we're at. 185 of 230, once those current trainees that are projected to pass get out. We have 10 IPD sworn officers that are on light duty, long-term light duty, military leave, or FMLA for a variety of different reasons. So if you take the 185 and we subtract the 6, if you want to look at staffing levels right now, today, that gives us 179. 179 minus the 10 that are not available because of the issues we talked about earlier, that takes us down to 169 out of 230 that are providing police service. In 2021, we have, by age eligibility, an anticipated 6 retirements, which basically takes the 17 that we have in training and is a washout, and we really are gaining no ground. So a realistic sworn projected, if I want to give you a range, by the end of 2021 is 165 to 175 sworn police officers. So if we look at the 200 number, prior to Prop P, we're going to be 30 down potentially. If we look at the 230 number, which is post the passing of Prop P, we could potentially be 60 officers down. And if you recall, on May 10th of 2021, Deputy Chief Jarnigan came up here and gave a presentation to the council, and he said that 49 officers in the next 5 years are eligible based off age to retire. It just kind of paints a picture of really where we're headed and where we're at. So why are officers not coming like they did in the past? We need to examine that and look very closely. In the past, we were the only city that had a contract or a work agreement. Matter of fact, we were the first. We had the L6 retirement system. We had health insurance, fantastic health insurance during our tenure here, as well as when we separate from the department in retirement. So let's look at the independents. We have L6 with a 4% employee contribution. Blue Springs now, just in the matter of the last 2 weeks, they moved to the L6 and they have a 2% employee contribution to their retirement. Grandview now has the L6, 0% employee contribution with a 2% match of the of their employee contribution to their 457 or their 401. Lee Summit has the L6, 0% employee contribution. So let's look at Lee Summit and Independence kind of as a comparison, because we have similar demographics to them as far as size and population and number of employees. If you take our starting salary, compare it to Lee Summit, and reduce it by 4% for our employee contribution, we make 15 cents less an hour than in a city of Lee Summit police employee. So we're in the ballpark. We're fair there, unless you start working at looking at the work comparison. Independence, roughly 121,000 people with a 12-hour police work schedule. Lee Summit, about 100,000 with a 12-hour police schedule. In 2018, and I need to look at 2018 numbers because that was pre-COVID, so any forecasting model will reject the last 2 years. So we want to look at 2018 numbers. Independence Police calls for service per patrol officer per shift, 19.53 calls. Compared to Lee Summit, 12-hour shift per patrol officer, 3.05 calls per shift. So effectively, for 15 cents less an hour, we are working 6 to 7 times harder to do the same job. So what type of calls are we going on? Just to look at some statistics from last year to this year, from 2019 to 2020. Our murder rate's up 44%, sexual assault rate's up 10.7%, robbery 17.92% increase, aggravated assault 12.2%.
You have
When you-
1 minute.
When you look at percentages, it can be a little hard to follow. We need to look at some sheer numbers. What I will tell you is that an armed robbery occurs every 2.5 days in this city, and an aggravated assault, which is an assault with a deadly weapon or where serious bodily injury has occurred, happens twice a day. So why are officers leaving or not coming here compared to where they did in the past? I have some documents here of the 53 officers that have left in the last 24 to 36 months, and it indicates the number one reason is we are overworked, the call volume. So how do we reduce that call volume per officer? We increase the amount of officers. With that comes a better quality of police work, which in turn will reduce calls for service into the 911 center. And how do we do that? Pay and benefits. It worked in the past when we were the agency that everyone came to work for. Now everyone has brought their compensation package relatively close to us, but are not working as hard. Pay and benefits will accomplish that. City leadership has indicated public safety as a priority, both through Independence for All and the summary survey and the passing of Prop P. The citizens agree with all this. The amendment to Prop P is an avenue to stand united as a city, to take a substantial step forward to increase police service and recruit and retain the most professional law enforcement officers that we can. Your support last week spoke volumes to the department, spoke volumes to the city. I look forward to your support tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergeant Nichols. Our next speaker is Chris Fairbank, who wishes to speak to the council regarding the fire sales tax. Mr. Fairbank, I assume you're speaking on behalf of IAAFF,
Yes, ma'am.
so you can have 10 minutes.
Madam Mayor, City Council members, I appreciate the opportunity to come speak to you again tonight. My name is Chris Fairbank. I am president of Local 781, Professional Firefighters of Independence. Again, I represent 157 members. Today, this council will vote on a proposed fire protection sales tax for the Independence Fire Department. I spoke with you last week in regards to where we're at as our department and where we need to be. For many years, our department has operated with the philosophy of doing more with less. Since 1991, staffing has been reduced by 10%, and our call volume has gone up by 265%. Current projections for this year show we'll have a 10% or more increase over last year's alarms, which the increase in alarms coincides with our year-over-year increase since 1991. This year, we'll have 4 of our 10 companies that will respond to over 3,000 alarms alone. Cities with comparable populations that we discussed last week with the labor agreement with the city and Local 781 are responding to significantly fewer alarms with equal to more staffing than we do. Case in point, City of Lee Summit, 10,313 alarms last year compared to our 23,400 alarms. Our guys are getting hammered. Capital improvements to our stations have long gone unfunded. 5 of our 10 stations are in desperate need of a replacement. Station 5, located at 35th and Claremont, has significant foundation issues due to a natural spring it's built on, causing the station to crumble from within. Station 8, built in 1964, located at Truman Road in Powell, has caused the department to spend more money to specifically design an apparatus that will fit within that station. Stations 6, 9, and 10, built in 1986, were designed to be 10-year fire stations. Those stations are now going on 35 years and were not designed to accommodate the apparatus that drives in and out of those on a daily basis. The proposed fire protection sales tax addresses the current needs of this department that the general fund has not been able to manage. Passing this ordinance gives the fire department the necessary resources to meet the demands of the city through the addition of additional personnel to reduce the call volume of our busiest companies and combat crew fatigue. It also improves our response times to the citizens calling 911. A schedule to replace our existing stations that we have outgrown from their current use. Finally, provide our firefighters with the necessary apparatus equipment to complete their mission protecting the citizens of Independence. The fire protection sales tax provides a path for Independence Fire Department to meet its demands and expectations set forth by the citizens of Independence. The professional firefighters of Independence ask for your council recommendation and full support of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Breitenbach. Our next speaker is Elisa Breitenbach, who wishes to speak to the council regarding mask and business and independence.
Thank you, council, for letting me come up here and speak. I appreciate it. Honestly, if you want to run businesses out of your city, this is the best recipe to do it. Many of us have had to leave your city in order for us to have our businesses. Marcy wants to know just how are we supposed to help protect her and her son.
Ms. Breitenbach, please address all your remarks to the council as a whole, not to any individual citizen or member of our staff.
I know for a fact many places do curbside service and pickups. My donut shop in Raytown at Doughboys, we do curbside service. We will wear a mask outside for people that need to have a security blanket. Basically, that's all this is a fake security blanket. But healthy people should not be forced to wear a mask all day to help give people a false sense of security. It is disgusting and it is horrible. I had to leave Independence and I couldn't leave quick enough. I died on the floor of my store, Little Bits, and I'm thankful for Firehouse 3 that came and AMR that came and shocked me back to life 5 times, but still delivered me dead to Centerpoint Hospital. I'm thankful for Centerpoint Hospital. I am thankful for my friends. I'm thankful for Karen DeLucy. She is someone that I trust and respect.
Mrs. Breitenbach, please do not address anybody individually. You are
It's a
here to
compliment.
address the council.
It's a compliment.
The rules say not to address anybody personally.
Okay, I don't have any more to say, but I will be outside and I will be speaking a lot more. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Charles Sperry, who wishes to speak regarding mask mandates. Mr. Sperry.
Council members, my fellow residents of the City of Independence, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I don't want to rehash what many of you know about how ineffective most commonly available masks are. I'm not going to go over how spurious mask mandates, lacking any limiting principles, are violative of people's civil liberties. What I am going to do is bring up one simple point. People are frustrated. They are fed up. They are finished with the mask mandates. You may have whatever opinions you have on the nature of COVID and the efficacy of masking, but one fact remains absolutely transparent. You were democratically elected by the residents of Independence to enact the will of the people. And the people are done. And if you enact this mask mandate, when the people go to the ballot box, you will be too. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Marion Breitenbach. Did I pronounce that correctly?
No.
What is it?
I answered anything.
Okay. Tell me your name, sir.
Marion Breitenbach.
Marion Breitenbach, who wishes to
Yeah.
speak wearing masks.
I tried to be the boss of the one that was up here a little while ago talking, but I don't succeed very often. I have a donut shop, so I thought we'd take this thing just a slightly different direction for you fine people. I'm glad you guys get paid the big bucks up there because it looks like we've got some people that are concerned about what you're going to do. Our donut shop is it's our life. It's our family. It's everything we do. We don't do much social life other than our donut shop. We talk to all of our customers. I can make a case for almost everything that people have said up here for and against just by the conversations with my customers and friends and family. So let's take this one direction and go, what do the two parties have in similarity? The number one overriding factor that they have the same, they both think they're right. Yay and nay, they both think they're right. What's some other factors they have in common? People that wear masks, people don't wear masks, people that have to wear masks, they all wear them wrong. They all touch them, they lay them on tables, they put them in their pocket, they put them in their purse, they lay them on their car seats, they have to go someplace, they put them on. All we've ended up with on a mask like this is a germ rag. If you're going to take the mask seriously, get an N95, make sure it seals on your face and do it properly. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. People that got beards, the masks don't seal. They're worthless. That's all I got to say. I just thought we'd put it together so that both sides have important points. If you don't like a business because they're not wearing masks, don't do business with them. Go someplace else. Let people make their own choices and their own decisions. And if you're going to get serious, start doing some study of history. Study the Spanish flu. My God, this pandemic is nothing compared to what happened in the Spanish flu. And the largest number of deaths in the Spanish flu was not the Spanish flu. It was pneumonia. It's the complications of the flu that created the pneumonia. Guess what's different between now and then? We have the medication to deal with the pneumonia and deal with some of the problems to get through it. So study history. This pandemic doesn't even compare with some of them we've had in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Terry Morris, who wishes to speak to the council on behalf of the Advisory Board of Health regarding masking. Dr. Morris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council members and City staff. As you said, I'm here representing the Advisory Board of Health to the City of Independence. It's made up of physicians, dentists, veterinarians, and various community members, some of whom have medical training like nurses. I'm here really just to talk about what we're seeing now as a medical community. As the COVID-19 admissions have once again accelerated, and by the way, I put a small 3-page handout for you to take a peek at. Just shows what the community is seeing currently. Your healthcare community is facing difficult challenges. I switched on the 5:30 NBC Nightly News last week, and there was a feature about Children's Mercy Hospital. And it wasn't about the groundbreaking healing work that they do there. It was an interview with Mercy's Director of Infectious Disease, Dr. Angela Meyer, and she described the increasing caseload of COVID and RSV seen in Kansas City's children over the course of the past 2 weeks. The Delta variant is not sparing our children. In my specialty, we were seeing reports of new mothers dying from COVID a few days after they give birth. Some babies are going home to their new nurseries, but not to their moms. The Delta variant is not bypassing the maternity ward. Our local healthcare systems are experiencing a rapid surge of COVID-19 patients, and many are sick enough to require hospitalization. The only reason they put you in the hospital is because you're going to die. They don't put you in the hospital. We're averaging 154 new patients every day in Kansas City for the last week. If you examine that case curve, it looks exactly like it did last November. Hospitals have limited bed in which to place seriously ill patients. COVID units are often full, and almost 50% of the hospitalized patients are now between the ages of 20 and 60. There are severe shortages of nurses and other hospital staff to take care of these critically ill patients. Our hospitals are often forced to go on diversion, which means they will not take new patients. So if you live a half a mile from the hospital and you suffer a critical time illness like a stroke or a heart attack, you will not be taken to the hospital that's a half a mile away from your house. They will take you to the next hospital on the list that's not on diversion. Those minutes you spend on the road, your brain is dying, your heart tissue is dying, and you don't get it back. We are in trouble. 57% of Missourian residents have chosen not to be fully vaccinated. Our doctors and nurses are overworked.
Dr. Morris, may I ask you, if you could just speak a little closer to the microphone, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Our doctors and nurses are overworked.
Thank you, Dr. Morris.
They're simply exhausted both physically and emotionally, and they need help to bend the COVID curve. If you take a look at the virologist Ian Mackey's Swiss cheese illustration in the handout I gave you, you can see that no single part of any prevention strategy is perfect. Each slice of a plan has got holes in it, ways that it doesn't work. Viruses are tiny, nasty beasts, but when everything is put together, a combined plan can and has worked. Everything you can do helps. The city shares in the responsibility to provide and encourage vaccination and to provide rapid sensitive testing. Citizens have a personal responsibility to stay home if they're sick and to limit their time in crowded spaces. Masks actually are an important part of this prevention strategy sandwich. That's why you see doctors and nurses wearing masks. Multiple well-done studies have shown that wearing a mask can reduce the spread of COVID. N95 masks are ideal. Procedure masks like I wore in surgery or you might wear sanding a drywall is pretty good. 3-layer cloth masks of a tightly woven fabric works fairly well. If you combine the last two, you're really helping. If you wear a bandana, you're not doing a darn thing. The point is the community and the city needs to step up now. Our community's doctors and nurses and hospital systems are asking that you help them so that they can be there to help you. We're merely asking that you do your part. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Morris. Our next speaker is Jane Garin, who wishes to speak to the council regarding choice. And I'm sorry, I probably mispronounced your last name.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm used to it.
Okay.
I'm going to put this up here so you all can see it.
Thank you.
So you can kind of maybe follow where I'm going with this. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I really didn't want to come tonight, but I prayed about it and was led that I should be here. I don't like crowds. I don't like talking in front of people. So I hope you understand that what I'm about to say is pretty important. And it's not just for the council, but it's for everyone here in Independence. Excuse me, I'm having technical difficulties with my phone. Okay. I'm going to read some scripture from, and I'm not a preacher or anything, I'm just a regular old granny that lives here in Independence, grew up, and just a nobody. From Genesis chapter 3, starting at verse 1, this is the King James Version. I believe it's the King James Version. It's on my phone. And I, the Lord God, spake unto Moses, saying, that Satan, whom thou hast commanded, in the name of my only begotten Son, is the same which was from the beginning. And he came before me, saying, Behold, send me, I will be thy son, and I will redeem all mankind, that one soul shall not be lost, and surely I will do it. Wherefore give me thine honor. But behold, my beloved Son, which was my beloved and chosen from the beginning, said unto me, Father, thy will be done, and thy glory be thine forever. Therefore, because that Satan rebelled against me and sought to destroy the agency of man, which I, the Lord God, had given him, and also that I should give unto him mine own power, by the power of my only begotten Son, I caused that he should be cast down, and he became Satan. So my topic is choice. We all have a choice. We can wear masks. We cannot wear masks. We can vote for or against. I mean, this COVID is bad. I don't have written notes. Sorry, just a few. So I'm just going from the heart. I know people who've had it. I know people who've been vaccinated for it, and I love every single one of them. I don't care what their choice is. I love them. I'm sorry for those who've been lost. But guess what, folks? COVID's here to stay. The vaccine and whatever problems it causes or helps is here to stay. The big picture is, what is our choice going to be? Is our choice going to be for ourselves, for what we want, for what is going to bring us honor and glory, for what's going to bring us money? Why? What are we going to choose? We all have that right to choose. It's a God-given right for choice, not mandated by the United States or the state of Missouri or the city of Independence. God gave us a right to choose. Satan tried to take that away from us. I'm not here to say, choose this way or that way. I'm here to say, take into account why you're choosing what you're choosing.
You have 1 minute.
Because why? I've been here 5 minutes.
4 minutes and 8 seconds.
Okay. So anyways, I didn't figure I'd talk that long. We're all going to die someday. We all will, that's a fact. But the thing is, because of Jesus Christ, we have an opportunity to live eternally. And that's what our choice is about. So I pray that you all, everyone, the choices you make it out of love. Not for yourself, for the well-being of others, because God asked us to love Him and to love one another. That's the most important choice you're ever going to make. And God bless America, and God bless independence.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next speaker is Valerie. I'm sorry, I can't make out your last name, Valerie. Pardon me, say it again? James? Okay, Valerie James, who wishes to speak to the council regarding voting against the mask mandate. Ms. James.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I'm Valerie James. I've been a resident of Independence since 1996. I'm dressed in my gym clothes because I do care about health, and I'm going to the gym after this is over. I want to say I was so proud of our mayor for taking the stance of making it a choice to wear masks, allowing businesses to make that choice to mandate a mask to enter their business, and I was very proud of you for that. But this just isn't about our freedom. This is about common sense. We have a virus that has a 99.7% survival rate. Polio, smallpox, they didn't have a 99.7% survival rate. They also were not carried by animals. So in order to eradicate this virus, we will have to destroy the virus, not only immunize every person in the world, but every animal in the world. So therefore, what I'm saying is this virus is here to stay. We're not going to eradicate it by wearing a cloth over our face, because the cloth has a weave that is much larger than the particle of the virus. The virus will escape it. I don't care if you have 4 or 5 masks on, the virus will escape it. And if you don't believe me, put 5 masks on your face and take your glasses and blow, and you will see them fog up. That is called vapor. Our vapor is part of the excretory system. Our vapor is full of bacteria. Our sweat is part of the excretory system. It's full of bacteria. And your mandates place an ultimate burden on the police officers and the firefighters. They not only have to try to enforce a mandate that, by the way, is not a law, but they also have to wear those covered in sweat when they're out fighting fires and they're breathing in their own excrement. They're breathing through sweat-filled masks. They're breathing through vapor-filled masks. So we're placing an undue burden on our first responders. In addition, the PCR testing, as was mentioned, cannot distinguish between flu and vaccine. Therefore, we don't know actually if the 99.7% survival rate is of COVID or the flu. So we're making these mandates based on misinformation. We're making mandates that, again, are not law. I don't think any of you are on the state legislature committee. So we are not making laws. We are making mandates. The laws are enforceable. Mandate is a simple city ordinance. It is not illegal. In addition to that, I had COVID. I wasn't ever tested for it, but I know I had COVID last August. It was it felt like a sinus infection. Really, that's why I went to the doctor to get medicine for it. And you know what that doctor said? These masks do not work. They're not gonna stop a virus. So I'm listening to my doctors. I'm listening to frontline doctors that have been banned based on their science. So whose science are we following? Are we following my doctors or are we following your doctors? Because that makes a difference to me, that I listen to my doctor's advice. Masks do not work. You're not going to stop a virus. I worked in healthcare for several years. I worked at a hospital downtown Kansas City, and I worked there during 2017. And in 2017, that was the worst flu season we'd ever had. 45 million people were sick. 21 million people received medical care. 61,000 people died of the flu that year.
You have 1 minute.
810,000 people were hospitalized because of the flu, yet no one was forced to wear masks. A pandemic is only a pandemic when there isn't a cure or a therapeutic available, such as back in the day when polio was spreading rampantly. We have therapeutics. We have cures. We have ivermectin. We have remdesivir. We have hydroxychloroquine. All three have been proven to stop the virus, to help the recovery process of the virus. Therefore, this is not considered a pandemic. So whose science are we going to follow? Let's look at the common sense. Let's look at the statistics. The statistics do not warrant the government control. You work for us. We do not work for you. And I just ask you to consider voting no for mask mandates. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Justice Horn, who wishes to speak to the council regarding conversion therapy ban, Bill 21057. Mr. Horn.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mayor and City Council. My name is Justice Horn. Was born and grew up here in Independence. Hawker Heights is actually 2 blocks from here in government housing. So I'm here talking today about the conversion therapy ban. And I know that this is not the council's first time voting on this. I just really want to pose to the community at large as well as council that today we talk a lot about liberties and freedoms, but it is a godly act to love your neighbor. And if you're bestowed with the power and the responsibilities and the platform to be stewards of your community, then it's on you to do so. So I just want to leave that here as stewards of your community, as people who are imbued with the power to advocate for this community, to be on the right side of history this time around. Because it may not happen today, may not happen this year, but progress is going to come eventually. And it's going to be us young generation who writes the history books. So other than that, thank you, council. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carol Davis, who wishes to speak to the council regarding the mask mandate. Ms. Davis. Okay. Our next speaker is Ruth Carter. Is that correct? Who wishes to speak to the council regarding the mask mandate. Our next speaker is Patricia Collins, who wishes to speak to the council regarding the mask mandate. Our next speaker is Tiffany Gunnels, who wishes to speak to the council regarding no mask mandate for Independence. Tiffany.
And I'm a resident and small business owner in Independence, Missouri. And I'm glad that Mr. Breitenbach brought up the N95 mask. Even the N95 masks are only effective to 0.2 microns. That's a 10:6 ratio. They are not effective against a virus that is measured in nanometers, 10:9 ratio. A virus is 3 orders of a magnitude smaller than the most effective mask is good for. These masks do absolutely nothing to prevent the virus. Our Missouri Attorney General says masks for school kids inhibits learning, has severe social, emotional, and psychological consequences. Demonstrated by study after study, we urge the City Council to listen to the residents of Independence and vote no on this unconstitutional mask order. There is strength in numbers, and we will not comply, and we will remember how you voted today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charlotte Aycock, who wishes to speak to the council not to wear masks. Ms. Aycock?
Thank you. I had not planned to speak this evening, so I was not prepared. And then my sister shoved that paper and said, "You need to say something." So I'm going to.
Are you the sister? No, okay.
So I'm going to. Wearing this oxygen tank, when people look at me, they usually think, "Oh, she smoked." No, I didn't. This is a result of a surgery gone bad 12 years ago that damaged my left lung. So that is why I wear this tank. My pulmonary physician told me I shouldn't have to wear a mask. Very difficult for me to breathe with that on my face, extremely hard. Most of the time, I don't do anything but sit home. And I let my husband do, and my sister do what needs to be done. That's pretty much all I have to say, except I don't know if I really should say this, but there is more bacteria in your mouth than on your genitalia. And you're breathing that in and out, and that's proven fact. So I appreciate your time you've given me. Thank you,
ma'am. Our next speaker is Ben McLean. Is that correct? Who wishes to speak regarding the mask mandate? Mr. McLean.
Hello, I'm a resident of Independence. I grew up here. Last time I was here, I was earning the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge.
Wow.
Now, I got a little story. I went to Denny's, and I want to get some waffles. I want to sit by the door. But I can't come in because they require a mask. To walk 9 feet from the door to the table, because you don't have a mask to walk that 9 feet, you can't come in. Now, even supporters of this measure must recognize that you cannot eat with a mask on. It does not make sense anywhere for any restaurants to be open for patrons to dine in the restaurant and have a mask mandate for patrons, because you cannot eat with a mask on. Has our whole society gone insane? I don't think the grown-ups when I was a kid would have put up with this. Why are the grown-ups putting up with this now? Oh wait, I'm a grown-up. We have a choice here, and it really is a choice of science versus politics. You know, in political philosophy, we have a few different options. We have monarchy, oligarchy, republic, democracy, and technocracy. Technocracy is ruled by the experts. Instead of having elections and representatives of the people, we just find out who are the experts who have the special knowledge, and we put them in charge, and they make the decisions, and that's all. That's technocracy. That seems to be where our society is headed. Now, we do need to pay attention to people who have valuable knowledge and take their knowledge into account. But we also have to balance their concerns against the concerns of the people and their rights. To secure the ends of the rights of the people is the proper role of government, not to carbon copy whatever the World Health Organization says, or the CDC, or anyone else. So please don't pass this measure. But if you do, have some sense about where it's going to apply. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our final speaker this morning is Penny Curtis, or is it Perry Curtis? Penny Curtis? Penny, okay.
Is it morning already, Madam Mayor?
No. Not yet.
Thank you, council members, and also members of the community. I also was not planning on speaking tonight, and I appreciate all of the people that have spoken tonight and the many thoughts and things that they've brought before you. And I'm sure you have a lot of things to think about and things to ponder after these wonderful people have brought these both statistics and these things that are truths before you. I am a business owner in Independence. I live in Independence. I have a Buckner address, so it's kind of a, a wonderful thing to be able to stand as both a community member and a business member. I would like to ask you to reconsider even the thought of putting that mask mandate in Independence again. It puts undue duress on business owners. It puts us in a position to take away the rights of our customers. I'm a patriot. It puts me in the position of either standing up for the mandate that you put upon business owners or going against both the Missouri Constitution and our federal Constitution, and I'm a patriot. Last year, when you all put this mask mandate on the City of Independence, that was the first step in which businesses were either considered essential or non-essential. And then it put many businesses out of business because they were not considered essential businesses. I was able to stay in business, but it was only because I believed that what we did was essential. I also remember this, that businesses were put in the position, if they did not follow the mandate and require our customers to wear a mask, it put us in a position to lose our businesses. We either had to choose to make our business customers wear masks, or we were in the position of perhaps having our utilities turned off. And I don't think that is anywhere that any person in this room would want for any business owner to have to choose. So I would ask you, please stand for the Constitution, stand for the people, and allow us to make our own decision. Masks, even if when you buy them over the counter, it says right on the mask, on the disclaimer, that it is not meant for medical use, and it does not stop the spread of virus. So this mask mandate isn't about protection, it's about compliance. Thank you.
Okay, that completes our speakers for this evening. This brings us to our consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mayor. I move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any items any council member wishes pulled for separate consideration?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can you pull number 5 from the reports and recommendations of the city manager?
Are there any others? Please call the roll on the consent agenda minus item number 5.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Weir?
Yes. Councilman Stewart, item number 5.
So I apologize. I know we're trying to get to the good stuff here.
That's
but
okay.
I just had a couple of questions on this one. Mr. City Manager, we're requesting 1,050 G5 licenses, and it looks like there's an extra add-on here for $533,000. How many total employees do we have with the city?
Including all of our part-time staff, we're pretty close to that number right there, right? Usually when I speak publicly, I quote about 1,000.
And do all of them have computers or some type of ability to access their email or this?
Not all users have email, no, sir.
Okay, so if we don't, I mean, how many would you say wouldn't have email?
I would have to ask our tech services manager to come up and quote you on how many. And Jason, if you could come up very quickly, that would be great.
Yeah, so Councilmember Stewart, we're fairly close to that number right now. We do have a handful of staff members in like Parks and Rec and a couple in WPC that don't have that currently. That's actually something we're moving towards. There's a need to be able to officially communicate with all of our employees, and so that's what this license renewal reflects.
Okay, well, I know there's cheaper licenses out there. There's the G3 license, and then there's also the G1.
Yeah.
And if an employee doesn't require the software, why are we giving them the full-blown license?
Sure. No, that's an excellent question. So really the reason that we're buying the G5 license over some of those cheaper ones is less about giving them access to things like Word and Excel, and really it's more about the cybersecurity aspect of it. So the G5 license gives the IT department access to a wide variety of security tools, and we find that it's very important that we have the same tools for all of our users. Everybody that's logging in, we need to be able to secure them. You know, we're renewing this license at the same level that we renewed last year, so that we maintain that same level of tooling, so that we can monitor and prevent and mitigate any risks that may come up. And so that's really the big reason as to why we're doing it. We don't want to have a subset of users that we don't have access to those security tools on, that we can't monitor adequately, because as you know, anytime we do that, we're basically accepting additional risk for those users, and by accepting additional risk for a few users, we're increasing the overall risk for the city. And we're not in the business of increasing risk. We're shooting towards decreasing risk. You are right about the fact that there are lower licenses, and then Microsoft offers what they call their a la carte licensing options. We were actually doing that a couple of years ago. As we started adding the security tools onto that, it got very expensive pretty quick. Like a lot of things in life, whenever you buy the bundle, you get a discount, right? And so that's what we see here. And plus, there's some efficiencies there too, just because managing just all of these licenses in an a la carte state, it becomes expensive from a staffing standpoint, from a number of hours just to manage that, move those licenses around as people move jobs within the city, have different needs, things like that.
Okay, thank you. I have no more questions, and I'll move for approval on number 5.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Weir?
Yes. Number 5 passes. As we said at the beginning of the meeting, we are going to take the agenda out of order and move on to non-ordinance action items, and then we will come back to the public hearings. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 21-793, a resolution authorizing the mayor and health director to issue a public health order for a period of 30 days.
Discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Councilman Stewart.
So I just want to be very clear. I believe COVID is real. I believe it's dangerous. I have been vaccinated, and that was a choice that I made. I've heard that word a lot tonight, choice. As you may notice, I'm also wearing a mask tonight. That's a choice I made. It's the right given to me. I wouldn't want anybody to mandate me wearing this mask. Nobody told me to do it tonight. It was a choice I made. I will be voting no on this because I will not be taking anybody's choices or rights away. But if I go in
Excuse me, Councilman Stewart. I just would like to address those in attendance tonight. we've had our citizens' time to speak. The council is having a discussion regarding this ordinance and other items on the agenda tonight. I would ask you to please be quiet while we have our discussion until the vote is completed. Councilman Huff.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We are here tonight to vote on a city resolution introduced by others on this council who wish to mandate indoor and outdoor citywide face mask ordinance. I've gotten an equal amount of calls and emails for and against this mandate. As a council at large, I must take this into consideration when voting on such an emotional issue. The CDC and other health officials recommend non-vaccinated individuals and those who are vaccinated with other health issues to wear face masks. That is recommended. To be recommended gives everyone a personal choice. I do not believe the city council should mandate face masks on individuals and businesses. They can make their own decisions for themselves. Also, my biggest thing is, how are we going to enforce this? Are we going to enforce this with fines, jail time? I believe this is too much overreach for municipal government. If a business requests a mask to enter, then I have the choice of wearing a mask or go somewhere else. If I choose to wear a mask where it is not requested, I don't expect to be hassled for wearing a mask. It's about personal choice and respecting others. I believe the virus is real and deadly. I made a personal choice to get the vaccine, and I don't wear a mask. I wish that all the population would get a vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine, but it is a personal choice. I do not believe in forcing any individual, business, or city office to conform to this type of mandate. I'm sure everyone's heard about the St. Louis County where they've been sued by the state, and they do have a restraining order for this, and now there's a lawsuit against Kansas City. If this ordinance was to pass, Independence potentially could face a lawsuit with Jackson County and Kansas City. Every time Independence gets sued, it costs you, the taxpayers, money and legal fees. I'd rather our health department efforts towards upgrading the public with true sources of COVID-19 information. Therefore, I will be voting no on this mandate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Steinmeier? I'm sorry, did you ask? I thought I heard you to ask to be recognized.
Well, since you put me on the spot,
well,
I'll go ahead and say something.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, first of all, I appreciate everybody coming out, both sides. I acknowledge the fact that we do have a virus in our community that is touched many people here. I've had a week where I've been inundated with calls last week, and I've really had to just sit and reflect upon the things that are important to you, to me, and to the office that we hold here. One thing that you've reminded us of is that we have an obligation to follow the Constitution, both the U.S. and the state. We even took an oath that says we will do that. All of us on this council did that. I wanted to read out of the Missouri Constitution, Article 1, Bill of Rights, Section 2, which is the promotion of general welfare, natural rights of persons, equality under the law, and the purpose of government. It's really short, but I think it's really key. That all constitutional government is intended to promote the general welfare of the people, that all persons have a natural right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the enjoyment of the gains of their own industry, that all persons are created equal and are entitled to equal rights and opportunity under the law, that to give security to these things is the principal office of government, and that when government does not confer this security, it fails in its chief design. I want you to know that anytime I hear the words mandate come from a government, I get nervous. And it's probably because I had an old German father who was a small business owner, asked nothing from anyone except to leave him alone, let him earn a living for his family, and take minimal amounts of revenue from him and just let him run his business. And that's all he asked for. And that was the model set before me. I don't believe that government is in the business to make mandates. I don't believe any of us are qualified to raise your families or to run your business, for that matter. And I don't think you want us doing that. So I know that some of the concerns are the word mandate when we should be using recommendations. government's supposed to pay for health organizations, departments. They're supposed to do the research, to gather the science, and to make recommendations, and at times very strong recommendations. And I think at times we have not done that well, and then we've been scary with the word mandate. And I understand your fear. And I just want you to know that tonight I'm reminded of my oath, the second time I've taken it as a veteran. I took it once before. It means more to me today than it ever has, and I will be voting no.
Any other comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
No.
Perkins?
No.
Stewart?
No.
Steinmeier?
No.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Item fails. Madam City Clerk, item number 2.
Bill number 21-794, a resolution amending the council rules of procedure by expanding and clarifying certain sections.
Folks, just a moment. We're going to take a short recess when we're done with the non-ordinance action items. So if you could just stay for a few minutes while we finish this portion of the agenda. Or be quiet while you're leaving. We are still conducting business. If you could just hang on for a couple minutes, we'll finish these 2 items and then we'll take a short recess. Madam City Clerk, item number 2.
Bill number 21-794, a resolution amending the council rules of procedure by expanding and clarifying certain sections.
Is there any discussion on this bill?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Hobart.
I didn't have a chance to talk to you about this or much with other council members because of the other business we've all been busy with. I was going to ask if we could, I was going to make a motion to postpone this for 2 weeks so that we could talk about some specific provisions. I don't know if anybody else has an interest in that or not. I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
No.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
No.
Steinmeier?
No.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
No. Motion fails. Is there any further discussion on item number 2? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
No.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
No.
Steinmeier?
No.
Hobart?
No.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Item number 2 fails. Item number 3.
Council action is requested regarding the change of ownership application received from Highgate Hotels LP for a hotel selling intoxicating liquor license for the Residence Inn located at 3700 South Arrowhead Avenue.
Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. We are going to take a brief recess. We will reconvene. It's 7:53 now. We will reconvene at 8 p.m. It is 8 p.m., so we're going to call the meeting back to order. Give everybody a minute. And we will proceed with our public hearings. Our first public hearing is for the rezoning from C1 Neighborhood Commercial to R12 Two-Family Residential for the properties located at 3806 through 3822 South Canterbury Place. This is new information only. Mr. Arroyo.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Rick Arroyo, the Assistant Community Development Director here at the city. This rezoning application was considered by Planning Commission on July 13th. The Planning Commission did recommend in favor of this rezoning. As a reminder, the owner of this property requested to have this property rezoned for the purpose of future maintenance and structural repairs. I have no new information to add.
Okay, are there any comments or questions from the council on the public hearing? Public hearing is closed. Madam City Clerk.
21-050, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District C1 Neighborhood Commercial to District R12 Two-Family Residential for part of the properties at 3806 to 3822 South Canterbury Place in Independence, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, ordinance passes. Our next public hearing is for the application of McBee Coffee and Car Wash requesting a special use permit to open a car wash business at 15912 East US 24 Highway. This is new information only. Mr. Arroyo.
Thank you again, Mayor and members of the commission or council. This special use permit was considered by Planning Commission on July 13th. Planning Commission did recommend in favor of this special use. This is for a tunnel car wash facility off of US 24 Highway, across from the existing Quick Trip. The site was the previous location of the old Western Motel. I have no new information to provide.
Okay, are there any comments or questions from the council on the public hearing? Public hearing is closed. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 21-051, an ordinance approving a special use permit to operate a tunnel car wash on property at 15912 East US 24 Highway in Independence, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, ordinance passes. Our next public hearing is for the amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 14 of the Independent City Code pertaining to the Administrative Adjustments Appeal Process. This is a full public hearing. Mr. Arroyo.
Thank you. This code amendment was considered by Planning Commission on July 13th. Planning Commission did recommend in favor of this amendment. This amendment moves only the administrative adjustment appeals process for non-residential design standards from the Board of Adjustment to the Planning Commission for consideration.
Okay.
I have no new information.
Okay, thank you. This is a full public hearing. Is there anyone present who would like to speak in support of this bill? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Are there any comments or questions from the council on the public hearing?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Hobart.
I'd like to address a question to Mr. Arroyo,
You can address that to the city manager.
or the city manager.
Thank
if
you.
My apologies. Mr. City Manager, I was just curious what brought this up and what's the little piece behind it.
Yes, council member and other members of the council, we've had a number of applicants who were being required to conform to some of the requirements of our Unified Development Ordinance. If they wanted variance on that, that was going to this Board of Adjustment. Felt like that had a little bit of a parallel role, though, given that it's the Planning Commission whose role is to oversight all of the other public hearings, to oversight all of the other implementations of the UDO. So rather than having that separate body considering this part of the ordinance, the Unified Development Ordinance, that is, moving that over and unifying that back up with the Planning Commission's oversight responsibilities as well.
So, in short, it's taking a step out of the process and speeding it up and making it simpler for everybody.
It's another step towards streamlining the process and making it easier on the development community to do business within the city.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, are there any further comments or questions from the council on the public hearing? Public hearing is closed. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 21-052, an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 14 of the Independent City Code pertaining to administrative adjustment appeals. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call a roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes, ordinance passes. Our final public hearing is a full public hearing for the application received from Himalayan Petro LLC, doing business as Stop and Shop Number 1, for a retail selling of intoxicating liquor of all kinds in their original package for the convenience store at 151 West US 24 Highway. This is a full public hearing. Mr. Scannell.
Yes, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Tom Scannell. I'm the Community Development Director. This application is for the establishment that's located on 24 Highway around Liberty Street on the south side of 24 Highway. If the council will remember, over the last couple of years, a couple different applicants have applied for liquor license at this location. Each one of those applications have been turned down by City Council. There have been neighborhood concerns. This application went through the same public notice process, and we received and have included complaints from nearby neighbors. So in this case, staff is not supportive of this liquor license application. Otherwise, the application meets the alcoholic beverage code. So that concludes staff's presentation, and we're available for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a full public hearing. Is there anyone present who would like to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Oh, is there somebody online? I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes, go ahead. Is there somebody online who wanted to speak on the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, if you could just state your name, please.
Stisha Burton, and I am the managing officer of the business of Himalaya Petro that submitted this. We are just merely, the deal is that the business owner is trying to build this store, and this is merely to add in revenue. It's, I did read the report from the property owner, and I looked at that, and that's the car lot. He just happens to have 3 lots that are just right there in that little section. We appreciate their concerns, but I don't think that the school down the road, I mean, he brought that up about the students walking and so forth, but I don't think that that's really so much a concern. We wasn't really sure why these liquor licenses passed, and so we were trying again. But quite frankly, if this doesn't go, the business owner is going to end up having to close or leave. We're afraid. So that's all I can really tell you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support or opposition on the public hearing? I see somebody with their hand raised online. Okay.
That may just be me.
Does the council have any comments or questions on the public hearing? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Madam City Clerk.
Council action is requested on the application received from Himalayan Petro LLC, doing business as Stop and Shop Number 1 for a retail selling of intoxicating liquor of all kinds in the original package for the convenience store at 151 West US 24 Highway.
Is there any discussion on this bill?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Perkins.
thank you. Before the council meeting, I passed out some of the letters of asking for council to not consider this liquor license for various reasons. So I passed them out for your consideration to review. I will be voting no on this liquor license, and I would ask the support of the council to deny this liquor license as well.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
No.
Perkins,
No.
Stewart,
No.
Steinmeier,
No.
Hobart,
No?
Mayor Ware.
No. Ordinance fails. This brings us to our ordinances this evening. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 21-047, an ordinance authorizing acceptance of a grant in the amount of $547,500 from the Missouri Department of Transportation for reimbursement of overtime for the police department for impaired driving enforcement and youth alcohol liquor compliance checks from October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022, authorizing for future change orders and/or time extensions for the same project and making the necessary appropriations. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes?
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-048, an ordinance authorizing acceptance of a grant in the amount of $296,300 from the Missouri Department of Transportation for reimbursement of overtime for the police department for a crash investigation software license, LET-SAC, conference fees, and hazardous moving violations enforcement from October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022, authorizing future change orders, extensions, amendments, or addendums for additional funding for the same project and making the necessary appropriations. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-049, an ordinance authorizing acceptance of a grant in the amount of $52,000 from the Missouri Department of Transportation for reimbursement of overtime for the police department for occupant protection enforcement from October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022, authorizing future change orders, extensions, amendments, or addendums for additional funding for the same project and making the necessary appropriations. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins, Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-053, an ordinance finding, determining, and declaring the necessity of acquiring fee simple title for 24 Highway Complete Streets Phase 2, project number 112011, authorizing the negotiation and eminent domain proceedings if necessary, approving the plans and specifications for the project, authorizing the use of experts as needed, authorizing and directing the execution of documents, and the payment of funds to property owners or others holding property rights in conjunction with the project. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes?
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-054, an ordinance finding, determining, and declaring the necessity of new right-of-way and permanent sidewalk easement for the Hardy Avenue Sidewalk Project, number 112001, authorizing negotiation and eminent domain proceedings if necessary, approving the plans and specifications for the project, authorizing the use of experts as needed, authorizing and directing the execution of documents and the payment of funds to property owners or others holding property rights in conjunction with the project. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-055, an ordinance imposing a fire protection sales tax at the rate of 0.5% of the receipts from the sale at retail of all tangible personal property or taxable services at retail within the city of Independence, Missouri, which shall remain in effect at said rate thereafter until repealed by the voters of the city, calling for the proposition adopting said tax to be placed on the ballot at the regularly scheduled election to be held November 2nd, 2021. Excuse me. Proposing the form of the ballots and directing the city clerk to do all things necessary for the law in connection with hosting said election. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-056, an ordinance creating section 12.06.008 of the Independent City Code for the prohibition of conversion therapy of minors. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill?
Madam Mayor.
Who's first?
I'll defer.
Okay, Councilman Stewart.
So there was a similar ordinance recently, I don't recall, a couple months ago that did fail on this. And for full disclosure, I am one of the people that voted no on it. I did that for a variety of reasons. I didn't like a lot of the verbiage. And I'm not going to rehash all of them here. I just want to state that I do support this. Obviously, I'm a sponsor of it, and I'd like to thank Councilman Steinmeier for actually going out and kind of getting rid of some of my reservations on it. I do like this much better, and we'll be supporting it.
Councilman Perkins.
Thank you, Mayor. We've had several individuals speak tonight at the public comments regarding this. This has not been fully reviewed back by the Human Relations Commission, so I would make a motion that we postpone this until the Human Relations Commission can review this. I believe their next regular meeting is Monday. So postpone it for 2 weeks, let them review it, give their recommendations back to the council.
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to remand this to the Human Relations Commission for review and place it back before the council in 2 weeks. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
No.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
No.
Steinmeier,
No.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, motion fails. I think everybody's very aware that this is something that I have been researching and supportive of this city putting in a conversion therapy restriction for the city of Independence. I think just when this was read for the first time, I asked a few questions, which Councilman Stewart, asked. Well, these things haven't changed since the first version, and I admit that I have learned quite a bit about this process, this practice, and it's very complicated and complex, and the language is very important, specifically how we address this to achieve what I believe this city council wants through this ordinance, which is to protect children in our community from practices that are ineffective and harmful. After considerable conversations with various advocacy groups across the country, legal counsel, not from our city attorneys, I want to make that clear. We have not had yet the opportunity to sit down and go through this with our city attorney, but legal experts from outside organizations across the country and people in our own community, including some members of our Human Relations Commission. I want to get this right, and I have some serious concerns with the way that this is written without further discussion. So without the opportunity to take this back to the Human Relations Commission, I am going to be voting no on this evening. I think this is very, very important, and it bears far more discussion with those who know much more about it than I do, and I've initiated those conversations, but there is much more conversation to have. So I'm very torn because this is very important to me. I've had many conversations with our LGBTQ community and advocates of our LGBTQ community, but I don't believe that this ordinance achieves what I want to achieve, which would be to put something in that is effective and complete and enforceable to prevent conversion therapy in all forms. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Councilman Steinmeier.
this too is an important resolution for me, and I can tell you that because of the first one's language, I felt it necessary for us to consult and to look at a possible remedy for the language that I felt was not to the point, and I didn't think would stand the legal challenges either. This resolution is really a reflection of one of the most conservative states in the country, Utah. They passed this, and they passed it because they invited the LGBT community into their house and came up with the language. The research was there. There was both sides. You had the church, the government, and the LGBT community as a part of this. I don't know that we'll ever get it all right, and I can tell you that in ministry, the years that we spent, I've met young people that have gone through this, and I can't think of a more cruel practice. And the stories that I've heard they would grieve your hearts if you heard. Friends who've committed suicide after they've gone through this, many of them had to go through it more than once, and the statistics show that if they go through it twice, then many of them end up committing suicide as a result. I think this is a barbaric practice, and our whole intent is to partner with the laws that coexist with this, but to make sure that minors are not subjected to this in this community, and I think we accomplished that. That's all.
Thank you.
Madam
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Hobart.
Thank you. You know, that's part of my problem with this. I appreciate the work that's been done to get it this far, and in general, I think our hearts are in the right place, and in the same or similar place. I would have much preferred that LGBTQ plus folks in our committee, from our city committee and in our community, be allowed to weigh in on this so that they're have reviewed and approved the language. There's a big constitutional issue with these types of statutes, obviously, because you have freedom of speech, freedom of religion that affect these things. But this, as opposed to being based on whether treatment is paid for or otherwise traded for value, this ordinance specifically exempts religious and clergy from being held to this. So in other words, conversion therapy can still take place if it's a pastor or minister or a preacher doing it. And I know there's some constitutional issues in there, Laura, obviously, but that's why I won't be voting for this. I don't think it hits the target, and I think our folks should have weighed in on it first. That's all.
Is there any further discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Stewart.
I just want to point out that I believe the previous ordinance also exempted religious institutions as well. That's all. Thank you.
Yes, that is correct. And as I said, I have become much more educated about this topic over the last several weeks. I think it's very, very important that we get this precisely correct. There are criminal consequences. There could potentially be civil consequences for things that we don't have the ability to prosecute in our municipal court through an ordinance. There's specific language that and I appreciate the council's support in changing some of the language in the ordinance, but upon further conversations with people who work on this issue all across this nation in many, many communities, I just am not comfortable that this achieves what I feel that we need to achieve, what I want to achieve for our community. And I think it could be potentially harmful to that without a thorough review by people who know much more about this topic than I do, and the input of our Human Relations Commission, who originally brought this forward. I know that our Human Relations Commission has this on their agenda for their meeting on Monday, regardless of what happens at this council meeting tonight. And I think this is so vitally important that it bears further discussion from our community and from people who have done this work in many communities across this nation to advise us if this is achieving what we individually and collectively want to achieve.
Madam Mayor,
Councilman Steinmeier.
I understand your point, and I understand your heart. I also learning that there's more. We've been talking about this for weeks, and I've not received any invitation to speak with anyone in the community. Haven't had that opportunity. I've extended myself to anyone who would like to discuss it. And just so folks are aware, I asked someone who clerked for a Texas Supreme Court justice for 4 years to look at it, and he felt like it was as good as probably we could get. I talked to a co-sponsor of the House bill in Utah. They have had no pushback. They said it's gone well, and it hasn't been challenged, and that was since 2019. So I don't know specifically, because we're just talking in generalities. I don't know what exactly we're looking for, but I am open to hearing. I'm just disappointed that we're at this point, and there's been no attempt to reach out to the three of us to talk about it. So, so I guess we can just take a vote and see where it goes from here.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
No.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
No.
Mayor Ware.
No. Ordinance fails. Okay. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 21-057, an ordinance amending the city's current use tax to allow funding to be utilized for all sworn police department personnel and equipment, and providing for submission of the proposal to the qualified voters of the city for their approval at the special election called and to be held in the city on November 2nd, 2021, and proposing the form of the ballots to be employed at said election, and directing the city clerk to do all things necessary called for by law in connection with the holding of said election. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Ordinance passes. This brings us to our first readings. We do have one emergency ordinance this evening.
Bill number 21-058, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District C2 General Commercial to District R12 two-family residential for numerous properties on South Oxford Avenue in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 21-059, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District C2 General Commercial to District R30 PUD High-Density Residential Plan Unit Development, and approving a preliminary development plan for numerous properties on South Oxford Avenue in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 21-060, an ordinance approving a special use permit to operate a body art shop at 10701 East Winter Road, Suite 220 in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 21-061, an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 14 of the Independent City Code pertaining to sign regulations, variances, permits, appeals, review, and approval. Bill number 21-062, an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 14 of the Independent City Code pertaining to electronic message centers. Bill number 21-063, an ordinance vacating an existing unconstructed right-of-way of all the parts of 1706 South M291 Highway lying in, on, and across Lot 154 and the south 10 feet of Lot 153 of Staten Place, lots 150 to 166 inclusive, a subdivision in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
Before the
Councilman, Mr. City
Yeah,
Manager.
no, thank you.
No, stay down there, trust me.
I'm good here. Before the next item is read, I was contacted by the city attorney today. Opposing counsel that we've been dealing with on this issue has asked that in your role as mayor, you be made signatory authority to sign the documents associated with this item. So if the council would be agreeable to it, and I can click to the right language, we would ask that you propose amending this bill to add a section 2. Section 2 would state, the mayor is hereby authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate the city's purchase of 3206 North Spring Street, Independence, Missouri.
Okay, so we will need a motion to amend.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. May I ask a question, Mr. City Manager?
Sure.
The charter and various places in our code give the mayor the authority to sign certain things on behalf of the city. Why is this specifically necessary?
I think our city attorney feels the same way. It was
Okay.
a request of the opposing counsel, as I mentioned, so I think we were looking to be accommodating and also make the council aware that that request had been made.
So it's only for this specific transaction. It doesn't give me any ongoing authority. It's
No, it would be
specific
limited to this particular item.
to this. Okay, thank you very much. Is there any discussion on the motion to amend? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
No.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
No.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, motion passes. Madam City Clerk, will you read the bill as amended?
Bill number 21-510, an ordinance adopting amendments to fiscal year 2021 to 2022 budget, which was approved by ordinance number 19228. Bill number 21-510, an ordinance adopting amendments to the fiscal year 2021 to 2022 budget, which is approved by ordinance number 19228. Second and final reading.
So this requires a 2/3 vote of the council, which would be 5 members?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
it actually is just a majority because it's an appropriation
Oh,
ordinance.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Okay, then, is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Ordinance passes. Okay, information only. Item number 1, council selections for City Planning Commission, TIP Commission, and Public Utilities Advisory Board. Madam City Clerk, will you please share with the council what the process will be for making this selection this evening?
Yes, so if you guys recall, about 2 weeks ago, you approved a resolution making 3 boards and commissions individual council appointments. Tonight, we are going to make those pairings between the committee members and the council members. If you look up top, it's real small, but in the first box, we have a list of all of the council members and the mayor. Second box, it's a list of all of the board members. This is going to be random selection, and this is how the appointments are going to be paired up.
Okay, and the
So-
first board,
Is Planning Commission.
okay?
So if you look in the left-hand side of the screen, Councilmember Huff, you've been paired with Billy Preston, Councilmember DeLucy, Virginia Ferguson, Councilmember Stewart, Bryce Young, Mayor Weir, I think Paul Michelle, Councilmember Perkins, you've been paired up with Heather Wiley, Councilmember Hobart, Cindy McLean, and Councilmember Steinmeier, you have a vacancy to fill.
Okay.
Next will be PUAB. Again, top right-hand corner, these are the council members. Bottom right-hand corner are the the committee members. If you take a look on the left-hand side of the screen, Councilmember Hobart, you've been paired up with Nick Dow. I apologize, I don't know the first name. Mayor Weir, you've been paired up with Bridget McCandless. Councilmember Perkins, you've been paired up with Les Boatwright. Councilmember Huff, you've been paired up with Sherry Tyndall. Councilmember Steinmeier, very lucky, you have the vacancy. Councilmember DeLucy has been paired up with Larry Porter, and Councilmember Stewart has been paired up with Joe Zach.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Finally, the TIF Commission. So this committee only has 6 spots. The mayor has said that she doesn't need to be paired up with anyone for this particular commission, so this will specifically be just for council members. Again, you guys are in the top right. They're in the bottom right. And if you look on the left, Councilmember Perkins, you've been paired up with John Satoro. Councilmember Stewart, you've been paired up with Grace Cormindy. Councilmember Steinmeier, you have been paired up with Martin, I think Dan Martin. Councilmember Hobart, you've been paired up with Brush. I don't remember what their first name is.
Ron Brew.
Yeah, there we go. Councilmember DeLucy's been paired up with Sue Shirk, and Councilmember Huff, you have been paired up with Martin Cooney. Those are your individual appointments for those 3 boards. Once the terms expire, then you guys can start making your individual appointments for those.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This brings us to our council member comments. I'll start on my left with Councilman Hobart.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I first want to thank all the groups of folks that showed up tonight. The mass folks, I really wanted to thank. All the speakers on both sides of the issue were good. All the points were hit. My ask for everyone in Independence going forward this fall, the rest of the year, until we somehow, come out on top of COVID or hit the peak and head back down, is to be respectful of each other, whichever side of the street you fall on, to treat each other with respect and dignity and be peaceful. Everybody, this is such a divisive issue. Councilmember Huff said it very well earlier, and everybody has a right to their opinion and beliefs. So let's remember that as we go forth and conduct business and be with each other out in public and in our houses and all that. The firefighters, you guys filled the room, spectacular. You even got an ex-cop over there with you. I appreciate that. You've got work ahead of you, and I'm behind you. I think we all are, but they can speak for themselves. But we want you guys to have the tools, the manpower, and everything you need to serve the city's public health. The police certainly get a lot of attention because those are the headline grabbing things. But that doesn't mean that you're not as much in need or more. We only know when you tell us. I wanted to thank Doug Short specifically. He has become a regional leader throughout COVID and on the emergency response teams, and on top of doing his job of getting all you guys to still show up to work every day. So I couldn't be more proud and more thankful that you guys and all the guys that aren't here show up every day for us. When you're sick, when your team gets sick, when everybody gets quarantined, you have to work extra. Horribly hard job, and I do very much appreciate it. So thank you. On the flip side, we've got more police in this room than I've seen. I wasn't here last week, and maybe there was more then. But it's really good to see you guys. For those of you that don't know me, my dad's a retired cop, and everybody's heard me say that a million times. Some of you worked with him. Some of you retired guys worked with him very closely. And I have an extreme amount of respect for you. My cousin served on IPD, and some of you worked with him. So I hope you'll help us. Fire's got to work. You got to work. This is a challenge ahead of us. Coming up just a few months from an election, we've got a lot of education to do. We've got a lot of politicking to do, and we've got a lot of work to do to build the right support for you guys so that we can hopefully help everybody in our public safety, our first responders. So those days that you work 12 hours a shift and then 16 hours at a time, or you're filling in spots, you can't take vacations, you're dead tired and can't keep your eyes open to write a report or go to one more call. 19 calls a shift is insane, obviously. That's insane. It's not a long-term solution. It's a long-term solution for failure, for burnout, and for a decreased safety in our community. So, I'm behind you. I'm sure my thoughts will be echoed, but know that you've got, as whatever support we can give you, you've got it, okay? So I hope we all, in some way or another, can work together, make this a good election in November, and get everybody in here what they need to help make Independence a safer place. Thank you all very much. And Mr. English, great speech, man. I know it's not your everyday job, so I sure appreciate you coming here and standing up for your fellows. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Steinmeier.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a few things. Glad that we got everybody happy tonight in the room. You all are an important aspect to a secure and safe city, so we do recognize the stress and the challenges that we have, and planning is a good thing, and so we need to continue to work together. This is just the beginning. The city needs to get engaged, involved. We need to find the funding to make the improvements, get the equipment, pay our police officers, hire more police officers. There's so much that we need to do. So tonight's just the beginning. The work now begins. Looking forward to that. Mr. City Manager, just a couple of things. I was curious if we could get an update. I sent you pictures today of issues of trash and things like that. We've been talking about our homeless issue, the panhandling. It's still an issue. I'm wondering where we're at, when we're going to see enforcement of our panhandling ordinances.
I know on the item you sent me, which involved a clothing donation store, our staff has been out there working with the business to get them into compliance with the council code. They've got their cameras. They don't have the fencing around that yet. They have bids for that, and I hope that that will begin to mitigate that particular issue. The homeless issue is something that we continue to communicate with a lot of folks on. I know we've got our new city attorney, and I think we'll engage him to help with that conversation as well. I won't steal the mayor's thunder, but she has a meeting coming up this Friday that she may want to reference. So I think it's a multi-pronged issue, and we'll certainly continue to ask for the council and the community's thoughts about how to best approach that as well.
Well, I know that, and if I may, with your permission, just or you can ask our city councilors. I know that Mr. Langford had sent something, guidelines of how to enforce the panhandling ordinance to IPD. And then when you were on vacation, acting city manager said that he had referred it to our new city councilors. So I'm wondering, have we got anything back? Have you been able to look at that? Have you sent anyone in command the criteria, or if there's concerns, or how we're going to do this?
Thank you, Councilman. I have had a conversation. I did have an opportunity just to, as a second set of eyes, to review what Mr. Langford had put out, and as I told the chief, I agreed with that guidance. That was the last time that I had anything to do with it technically. So we can certainly revisit that to see what additional guidance or steps that they're looking for in order to effectuate that.
I mean, did you give them guidelines to begin to enforce?
I seconded what
okay.
Mr. Langford had said, which was that I agreed with the guidelines that he had provided.
Okay.
So I didn't give them any different guidelines, no.
Okay, all right, so, Mr. City Manager, if we can start enforcing these ordinances, that would take a lot off of my plate, the others, and yours, because we just continue to send it to you. So if we can do that, that would be great. The other thing that I wanted to just say tonight, you know, people are asking questions, okay, so if we're not going to do a mandate, then what's next? Well, I think that maybe in a study session or two, we can start to talk about our health department. One of the questions that people have asked and raised tonight was the issue of the children. I don't know that the U.S. has a study on what is an acceptable range of CO2 in a classroom. I know they've done it in Europe, they've done it in Asia. They have an idea of what's acceptable. There are studies out there, and I think that we need to have that discussion, and we need to bring some guidance. That's what our health departments and health organizations are supposed to do, is operate under that core value of the principle of effectiveness and the precautionary principle, where we're recommending and even strongly recommending how to keep the people that are entrusted to us safe. And so if we can begin to have dialogue about those things, I'm concerned. I certainly wouldn't want my 2-year-old granddaughter wearing a mask when brain development requires oxygen, facial expressions require oxygen. But what are the safe levels of CO2? How long should they be wearing them? When is it becoming a danger zone? These are things that we need to start asking. So we're told, follow the science, follow the science. Well, where's the science on this? I think we need to start putting some questions out there for our health department. So if you can help us do that, that would be super in the next study session or so.
Councilman Steinmeier, I just want, people may have forgotten about this because it's taking a little longer to pull together than we originally intended. But I did appoint a special committee on health department operations. This is primarily put together to talk about, and this was related to our discussion about the budget and the ARP money that we have coming to the city and how to deploy those funds. But it also is to talk about how our health department will be organized and what the role of the various roles that our health department would play. So that meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, the 25th at 2:30 or 2 o'clock p.m. Here at City Hall. It's really an initial meeting to set out the work plan for this special committee. It includes myself, Councilmember DeLucci, and Councilman Hobart, as well as many members of our staff from various departments to help to kind of craft this out. So I would like to ask that we allow for that meeting to happen and kind of start plotting out. I mean, certainly it's an open meeting. Anybody can attend and start mapping this out. And I think that would be a very important step before we start tasking our health department with additional responsibilities when we're really just we're still in the process of staffing and funding and bringing people up to speed. We're still administering, obviously, a lot of testing and vaccines, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So I think the next study session may be a bit soon. I certainly don't mind having the discussion, but I think it would be more fruitful if we postpone that discussion till after we have this initial meeting and have a better understanding of the scope and scale of our health department moving forward.
Well, people have asked tonight what's next, and I shared the same concern. What is next? So
I didn't hear anybody ask what's next.
Okay, well, person's still sitting in this room that said, if we don't do it, then what should we do next? What are the recommendations? So that's all. And I think it's a valid question. And if I'm wrong, then I'm asking it, and I still think it's valid. And I'd still like to have the discussion at some point. Thank you.
I would like to have the discussion as well. Councilman Huff?
I have nothing this evening.
Councilman Perkins?
Make it real quick since we're having discussions. So since we're developing our health department, and it hasn't made out to complete public access yet, but it's going to be here pretty quick. We're going to have a open meeting at the Truman Memorial Building September 21st at 6 p.m. to kind of talk about our future of our health department. Where's it going to go? How do we need to develop it, move it forward through the whole comprehensiveness of the health department? So that'll be arranged as part of the bigger discussion that we've had here. Good job, 7A1, Chris, for laying out the points on why we need to move these initiatives forward for the November ballot. Good job, FOP, for laying out the reasons why we need to move these ballot initiatives forward. The work is beginning to start tomorrow to get educated, get people understanding what our needs are, the future of our fire service, the future of our police service. So a lot of good work moving forward. I had some other comments, but you know what? It's been late, so I'm going to just defer.
Thank you. Councilman Stewart?
While we're on the subject of the health department, so they had a meeting late last week, and I actually joined, but I wasn't able to join all of it. I got in late. So I wanted to go back and listen to the meeting, and without calling anybody out on this, so the next day I made an inquiry where I could watch the meeting, and because I didn't notice it on the city website. And I was advised that the meeting was not recorded because it wasn't required to be recorded. And then a couple of days later, it miraculously showed up on the city website. Mr. City Manager, do you have any information on why there was a delay, or maybe why I was told that initially?
Our health director recorded it from her laptop, which was mostly for her purposes to go back and check minutes, but with the overwhelming request to have it, we decided that was better than nothing, so that's why we shared that.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I will be putting a resolution on the next meeting to make sure that those are recorded going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We had some wonderful events this past week in celebration of the Missouri Bicentennial. I want to thank our staff, particularly our Parks and Recreation Department and our Public Information Officer and our Communications Department for helping so much with the events at the National Frontiers Trails Museum. We had tremendous attendance and people really enjoyed it. And it was nice to be out on a beautiful Saturday to learn about Missouri history through various different interpretations, lectures, puppet shows. The celebration continues throughout the rest of the summer and into the fall. There will be a parade in Jefferson City in September in conjunction with the inauguration. So there will continue to be celebrations in the coming weeks and months for the Missouri Bicentennial. We continue to offer vaccines 5 days a week. These, as always, are free. They're open to anybody who wants to come and get one. If you're a minor, you need permission from a parent or guardian. You don't have to live in Independence. You don't have to live in Missouri. You don't have to live in Jackson County. You don't have to have insurance. These are free drop-in clinics that anybody can come and receive a vaccine. So today we had one from 4 to 6 p.m. here at City Hall. That was the Moderna vaccine. Tomorrow we will be at Graceland University from 9:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. They will be offering both the J&J and Pfizer. On August 18th, we will be at Lunch Partners at 700 West Lexington from 11:30 to 1 o'clock. That will be the J&J vaccine. Also on August 18th, Wednesday, we will be at the Villages of Jackson Creek from 1 to 4 p.m. All 3 vaccines will be available, J&J, Moderna, and Pfizer. On August 19th, We will be at the Independence Fire Station number 7. That's the one out by Adventure Oasis from 6 to 8 p.m. All 3 vaccines will be available. And then on August 23rd, we will be at Maywood Baptist Church from 5 to 7 p.m. and the J&J and the Pfizer will be available. Certain individuals with certain medical conditions are now eligible for a 3rd booster shot. If you fall into that category, we will also be offering the 3rd booster shot. If you received a Moderna vaccine, your booster shot has to be Moderna. If you've received a Pfizer vaccine, your booster shot has to be Pfizer. If you received a Pfizer or a Moderna vaccine, you cannot have a J&J vaccine as your 3rd booster shot. But those will be available as well. From June until the end of July, we were averaging, or beginning of August, we were averaging 50 vaccines per week. 2 weeks ago, we did 230 vaccines. This past week, we did 242 vaccines. So that is good news. I'm very encouraged by that. I know our health director and our health department is. I know our fire department that is assisting with our vaccines is encouraged by that. It's a very positive step to getting this virus under better control. If you would like for us to come to your place of business, your church, your neighborhood, please let us know. And we would be happy if you have at least 10 people who want to get vaccinated, who are willing to get vaccinated at your event. We will come and we will do vaccinations. If you need assistance, we don't require any kind of reservation to get a vaccine, but if there's any difficulty, then please contact us and let us know. If you need transportation to a vaccine, there are rideshare services. Both Uber and Lyft provide free rides to vaccination clinics. If you need information about how it could assist you with that, please let us know. We have had some requests from individuals who want to do vaccines at certain types of events that are far more social in nature. Understand, we ask people to wait 15 minutes after they are vaccinated to ensure that there is no reaction. That is very rare. But people probably don't want to get vaccinated at the Garth Brooks concert. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So there is a chance that you may have a reaction. We need to ensure that we have adequate medical staff available in case that, and equipment available in case something like that were to occur. So we're happy to come out to do vaccines, but we need to ensure that it's a safe circumstance to do that. I also just wanted to thank our community for being so involved in this decision-making that we are undertaking during these very difficult times, and we appreciate very much the input. This is how our government works, and I'm very proud to be a part of it, that we can accept this type of citizen engagement and support on these issues, and that people are willing to come out and spend their evening to share their opinions with us and support the vote that ultimately is taken by the council. You'll have that opportunity in November to come out to the ballot and cast your vote for our police and fire departments and public safety in our city. We will get straight to work in providing educational materials on these 2 ballot issues so that we can adequately inform the public about what this means for our community. And we're looking forward to working with these departments and doing that. So thank you very much, all of you, for being here tonight as well. Mr. City Manager, anything else this evening?
Nothing. Thank you.
We're adjourned.